Hello and welcome. I am Devika Chopra and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Global stocks stumble after President Donald Trump announces wide-ranging tariffs. The move fuels fears of higher prices and supply shocks, sending the S&P 500 to a COVID-era low. South Korea's Constitutional Court unanimously removes President Yoon Suk-yeol from office. The decision follows his December declaration of martial law, which triggered outrage and a parliamentary vote to impeach him. The 6th BIMSTEC summit begins in Bangkok with leaders from 7 nations meeting to strengthen ties on trade, security and climate in the Bay of Bengal. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Advisor for Bangladesh Mohammad Yunus meet for the first time since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. Israel says it has killed Hamas commander Hassan Farhat in a strike on Sidon, South Lebanon. Lebanese officials say 3 died in the attack, which the Lebanese Prime Minister calls a violation of the US-backed ceasefire. Russia has launched a wave of drone attacks on eastern Ukraine, killing 3 and wounding dozens. Kharkiv bears the brunt as fighting escalates across the region. At least 7 are killed as spring storms unleash tornadoes and floods across a wide swath from Texas to Ohio. The National Weather Service warns of more rain, flash floods and tornadoes as the system stalls over the Midwest. More than 40 people, mostly women and children, have been killed in a series of attacks across villages in Plateau state of Nigeria, officials say. Local authorities have reported mass burials as Red Cross teams continue recovery efforts. British Foreign Minister David Lammy says London and Washington are in discussion over a possible economic deal as he arrives in Brussels for talks. The comment comes after President Donald Trump imposed a 10% tariff on the United Kingdom. And our top focus right now. The 6th BIMSTEC summit kicked off in Bangkok, Thailand, with the signing of pivotal agreements, including the BIMSTEC Agreement on Maritime Transport Cooperation and 2 memorandums of understanding with the Indian Ocean Rim Association. This summit has united leaders from Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Bhutan. It provides a vital platform for enhancing collaboration in areas such as connectivity, development and regional economic integration within the Bay of Bengal region. Thailand's Prime Minister emphasized the importance of strengthening response mechanisms for natural disasters, particularly following a recent earthquake that affected Myanmar and Thailand both. The summit also addressed challenges in disaster preparedness, relief and recovery, fortifying regional cooperation. Here's what she said.
Given the current international circumstances and regional challenges, BIMSTEC will fortify our cooperation and collective actions. These include efforts in preparation, relief, and recovery to countries affected by natural disasters through existing cooperation, including a more robust mechanism based on the recent experience from the recent earthquake.
Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaffirmed India's commitment to a peaceful and democratic Bangladesh during discussions with Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus. Modi also unveiled a 21-point action plan laying out a comprehensive vision for regional cooperation across multiple sectors. Modi also met with Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing, where he focused on strengthening bilateral ties between India and Myanmar. On the sidelines, Nepal's Prime Minister Oli engaged in a key bilateral discussion with leaders from Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bhutan, focusing on climate change, investment and regional cooperation. The 6th BIMSTEC summit has set the stage for enhanced regional cooperation and strategic partnerships across key sectors in the Bay of Bengal region. joining me on the broadcast is Mr. Prashanta Kumar. Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for speaking with NewsX World. I, of course, begin by asking you, firstly, your thoughts on the fact that there's a 21-point action plan that has been now discussed at BIMSTEC, and largely the focus has been on strengthening trade ties between nations. This comes amid Donald Trump imposing tariffs across the board, across several nations. So what do you think of the role BIMSTEC nations could play in strengthening trade collaboration, particularly in the Indo-Pacific?
Let's say you can say rightly that's the President Donald Trump from US president. He can impose several imposed tariffs from several countries. Actually, you know that the Bangladesh is basically is a country unfortunately engaged with the ready-made garments. You know that the ready-made garments is a very much vital from the not only from Bangladesh, it's also compared to in India and also in Sri Lanka and also in Vietnam and also in Thailand. So there is a huge market from the ready-made garments, and you know that the cloth and accessories and knitting are all of the dependent on from that kind of goods and parameter there. So you know that the Donald Trump already imposed from tariff from different countries. From I think it's impact from useful impact from in these regions, and also the BIMSTEC. You know that BIMSTEC is basically come from the in front of the Bay of Bengal. In Bay of Bengal, you know that the Bay of Bengal is a huge opportunity. You can know that there is an Indo-Pacific strategy and Bay of Bengal very a good crucial strategy. And you know that all the countries from here, from Bangladesh, India, and Thailand, and Myanmar, and also this parameter, and also in Nepal and Bhutan, and also in Sri Lanka, you know that all of the very crucial and see dynamic here from engage one country to another country from trade, commerce, and everything. It's a very good opportunity and good momentum period from engaging their collaboration, trade, and everything. It's a very good hope. But we see the last fifth summit now is a sixth summit from the Thailand. But we talk about the world leaders, are dynamic leader are there from they are talk about from different and MU and different sign. But in practically there is no engagement, no you can see there's no particular work in the ground in BIMSTEC yet. So that is from little frustration from the reasons. We talk about the STARC. STARC is look like that's the same scenario. We are talking about the round. We have a very good summit and everything, but we can talk about the internal and very much regional connectivities. It's very much weak. I don't know what is happening. Why the problem is regarding there is a political or another negotiation problem. But I think this is a good hope from the still now, because I think this summit is very crucial. You know that the very long gap here the summit from sixth summit from in Bangkok. I think it's a very good hope and very good positive mode if everything is happen in a very good swing. And I think it's a very good collaboration, because there is some a lot of issues here, and I think it's a very positive mode from the next decades or next century.
Mr. Kumar, at the same time, an important bilateral meeting has taken place on the sidelines of the BIMSTEC between Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and the Bangladesh advisor at the moment, Mohammad Yunus, where India has raised matters of the anti-India rhetoric that has been going on under the leadership of Mohammad Yunus. And Mohammad Yunus has spoken about the possible extradition of Sheikh Hasina. Where exactly do you think India-Bangladesh relations are headed?
You know that India-Bangladesh relations is not from starting from a very single year. It's a starting very golden history from you know that the 50 years plus relations from India and Bangladesh. But the present time is still, you know, the 5th August, there is a regime change in Bangladesh. You know that the Prime Minister of Sheikh Hasina is now in India. But there is some bargaining issues from India and Bangladesh in the present time, because there is some anti-India and anti-Bangladesh sentiment in the grow and two other countries. And I'm very positive in that sense. Our chief advisor, Mr. Professor Dr. Yunus, he mentioned that this bilateral meeting is a constructive, productive, and fruitful. Definitely, I think it's very positive. You know that we have a very historical and very identifications in mood of Bangladesh, Indo-Bangla relationship, but there's some political aspect, that some volatile aspect, because of that there is some issues from minority issues especially in Hindus attacking several after the regime in Bangladesh, and also there is some particular issues that there. So we have in very pressure and political and other sort of thinking, but that there is in the very good hope for the trade and commerce and everything, because we know that all the country are interrelated and very neighboring countries. That the India-Bangladesh border they share the fifth longest border in the world. So you have to talk about in this sense from you technically you have to improve your economical growth and everything. You have to need from support both each country from India and also in Bangladesh also. But I think it's a very good hope for this sideline meeting, and it's very that all the especially in the media and from other side the journalists are awaited a meeting, especially. Am I wrong? Maybe wrong. It is a fifth time. They have in negotiation, and after all this meeting is happening from Dr. Mohammad Yunus and Modi's Prime Minister of India. And so I think it's a very good positive hope, and there is some behind there's lots of issues, political and other something here from some anti-India and anti-Bangladesh narrative. I think it's a very good hope from the.
All right, Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to arrive in Colombo, Sri Lanka for bilateral talks and to sign key agreements while his visit continues. This visit will come after his participation in the BIMSTEC summit in Thailand. This is the first foreign leader visit to Sri Lanka since President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka's win last year. 8 memorandums of understanding are expected to be signed, covering energy, digital infrastructure, health and defence. Prime Minister Modi's visit aims to strengthen India-Sri Lanka relations and advance the comprehensive joint statement issued after Dissanayaka's December 2024 visit to New Delhi. During his stay, Prime Minister Modi will meet opposition politicians, including Tamil representatives. One of the key issues discussed will be the fisheries conflict between Indian fishermen and Sri Lankan fishermen. There is also speculation about a possible defence pact to be signed. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's scheduled visit to Sri Lanka from the 4th of April to the 6th of April, Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath highlighted the importance of PM Modi's visit and the opportunities it presents for the two countries. Joining me live on the broadcast is Megha Sharma, Senior Executive Editor of NewsX from Colombo. Megha, what is it that you can tell our viewers firstly about the crucial highlights of this particular visit?
But before I talk to you about the crucial highlights, let's also discuss that it's just a few hours from now that Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be arriving in Colombo. He would be at the airport and at about 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, which is exactly the same time, at the same time zone in Sri Lanka. He will be arriving from the airport to Taj Samudra, which is in the heart of Colombo, which is at the Gulf face, which is a beautiful coastal line spread across 50 hectares. And in fact, there are people who are already arriving. Indian diaspora, which is as many in numbers, about 1.2 million people in the country are part of the Indian diaspora. And if I could ask my camera person to pan the cameras on the left hand side, and there you see there are stringent screening that takes place right now, because people have gathered. We understand it's just going to be, like I said, a few hours till the Prime Minister arrives. So there are going to be celebratory moments that are going to be shared by the people who are very keen to meet the Prime Minister, whose arrival this time around in Sri Lanka, this is going to be the 4th time ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the head of the state in 2014 that he arrives, and he will be meeting for the first time on the land of Sri Lanka the new president, who was was elected in 2024, Anura Disanayaka. So these are things that are going on. Like I said, there is heavy anticipation amongst the Indian community who are dying to meet the Indian president, who is beloved all across the globe, and Sri Lanka is no different. Also talking to you about what the program is going to be today in the evening. There is a Sri Lankan traditional puppet show that has been organized for the Prime Minister. This puppet show is actually going to reenact the very pious scene, which is Sundarkand in the Ramayana. There is in fact going to be a couple of audiobooks that are also going to be presented to the Prime Minister. These audiobooks are actually the narration of the Panchatantra stories that we have read in our childhood. Not just that, there are some other performances that are also lined up. There is a Hindustani classical performance, and there is a new Tal is what is being reported to us that has been composed by a Sri Lankan national, and that Sri Lankan national would be over here, the classical singer would be over here to share his experience in this new creation of his. The Prime Minister will be spending about a couple of hours approximately before he retires to his hotel room, because tomorrow again are going to be it's hectic activities that are going to be taking place. So right from 9 a.m. onwards, he will be presented a ceremonial welcome by the President of Sri Lanka, Anura Disanayake, and that is going to take place at the Independence Chamber over here at Golface itself. Golface, remember, like I said, it is a historical area, coastal line up to 50 hectares, and this was actually a colonial setup that had been made back in 1959 by the then governor of Ceylon, as it was called, and since then there have been a lot of changes that we have seen in the infrastructure, in the socio-economic lifestyle of Ceylon, and then of course it was named to Sri Lanka as we currently know of it. But very important meetings, like I said, going to be lined up, and he was speaking about the MOUs, the agreements that are going to be signed between both the countries in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Disanayake. One that stands out is of course the virtual inauguration that the Prime Minister does of the Sampur solar plant, which is the NTPC plant that has been lying in the back burner for the last 20 years. Finally inauguration does happen, so which means that the project will come to fruition in the next few months. Besides that, you already mentioned there is expected a defense deal that can take place between Sri Lanka and India. That is going to be the cynosure of all eyes. Besides that, there is debt restructuring, which India has been massively supportive of when it comes to providing financial aid, humanitarian aid in the last two and a half. In fact, even from the time of COVID, I think there are funds to the tune of $4 billion that India has already transferred to Sri Lanka during the time of its economic crisis, and those will be talks that are also going to be had between both the leaders.
Megha, at the same time, if you remember, President Disanayake chose India as his first destination for a bilateral visit when he was sworn in as Sri Lanka's president. So clearly that was an invitation and indication from the current Sri Lankan government. How do you suppose India now plans on building on that momentum further?
Yes, it was a ceremonial visit of the President of Sri Lanka, as has been traditionally the case. Every single time the President of Sri Lanka is elected, the first state visit that is made by the head of the state is to India. So nothing exceptionally different about that. But here's the thing, the hiccup that India and Sri Lanka particularly faced in the last few months was, of course, we talk about the Adani deal, the wind power project that had to be set up in Munnar could not happen because of the surrounding controversies around the plant. Adani had to withdraw it. Before that, India was also concerned and raised protests over a number of these spy ships that Sri Lanka had allowed on its coast from the Chinese side, and to which Sri Lanka later on adhered to and decided to not stop the Chinese surveillance that was taking place in the Indian Ocean region after India raised protests. But talking about what are the new avenues that both countries can expand and forge further in terms of their trade ties, economic ties, people to people, and culture connect. It's interesting to note that just at the start of 2024, when the former president of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, was at the helm of affairs, India and Sri Lanka had struck a deal that the UPI system in India is going to be implemented in Sri Lanka. So that's a great thing. And digitalization is something that has been the primary project led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi from the front. So those, like I said, amongst those 8 MOUs or perhaps more that are going to be signed today, digitalization and what are these other aspects of it that can be explored by both countries for Sri Lanka to take advantage of this public interface system is something that is going to be very important when the announcement comes right at the time of the MOU being signed. Meanwhile, also defense cooperation is something that India and Russia and Sri Lanka, and for that matter the rest of the world, needs to keep a close eye on, because although there have been no arms sales that have taken place thus far ever between Sri Lanka and India, but there have been naval exercises that India and Sri Lanka Army take place on an annual basis. So these are 2 points that are obviously going to be explored. People to people connect. Business is something that is going to bind both the countries together, despite there may be some diplomatic tussles, or for that matter the governments not seeing eye to eye. There was an issue that was raised about the Indian fishermen, the Tamil fishermen, and how they were encroaching upon the land of the Sri Lankans, and therefore the Sri Lankan authorities having to take stringent steps against them, arresting them, putting them behind bars, and so on and so forth. But the business community would bind both the countries together, because trade is important in wake of the global tariffs that we now witness, the war that has been announced by President Donald Trump. It is going to become more difficult for Sri Lanka to ensure that it carries on its recovery path, something that it had been staggering, finding it very difficult, dragging its feet after the economic crisis of 2022. So will those trade tariffs that have been now announced on Sri Lanka going to persuade Sri Lanka to move its trade trajectory and supply chains to India? Could be something, would be also on the table. So these are the major aspects that are going to be the broad contours of the bilateral meeting between both the leaders. And of course, we have the Foreign Minister himself, who will also be arriving, so he will be meeting his Sri Lankan counterpart. So interesting times ahead for Sri Lanka and India, and more importantly Sri Lanka.
Okay, all right, Megha, thank you so much for joining us. Well, viewers, that's all that we have time for. We will continue to bring more news updates from around the world. Stay tuned.